Hello.
Morning. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Training Thursday. We have a terrific presentation for you today. Actually, we have three presenters who will be with us presenting on different community prevention campaigns in action. Again, for those of you who might remember, back in March, we were going to have a two-day conference where we're going to have multiple presenters, and we were fortunate enough to have these three folks agree to share with us their presentation that they were going to do at our training. So without further ado, I'm going to announce or introduce the three speakers we're going to have. And what I'm going to ask after I introduce them is that when they make their presentations, for everyone, if you have a question for them, that you just put it in the chat box, and we're going to give time at the end of the three presentations to answer questions. So we want to make sure everybody gets a chance to provide their information, and then questions will be answered at the end. So the three folks that are presenting today, Nzinga Khalid, who's the prevention coordinator with the Community Access to Recovery Services, Milwaukee County Behavioral Health Division, and she is with the Light and Unite Red campaign. Madeline Kornbeck is the Community Alliance Coalition Coordinator through the Greendale Health Department, and she will discuss the Stigma Reduction Campaign. Sarah Jesse is the Community Health Strategist with the Sauk County Health Department, and she will present on the Not in My House campaign. So starting off will be Nzinga. Nzinga, do you want to share the screen?
Sure. I think that's where we are. Cool. Well, good morning, everybody. It is my pleasure and honor to be here with you today. We are going to just jump right in. So the campaign that I'm going to be talking about is Light and Unite Red. And basically the focus is shining a light on the dangers of substance abuse and actual use too. It runs in conjunction with National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week, which we're going to talk a little bit more about shortly. There we go. So he already introduced who I am. I don't need to tell you that, but I work for BHD. And you know, many of you that are on the line today, of course, you're like, what's your WIFM? What's in it for me? Of course, you're learning about many different community action campaigns, community prevention campaigns that you can put into action in your own area. So why Light Unite Red? Hopefully I'll convince you why you should be doing Light Unite Red in your area, or at least celebrating, participating and raising awareness around National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week. I'm going to get into just very briefly a few prevention concepts that we incorporate into Light and Unite Red, and then ultimately share with you some strategies for engagement in your community. So what's National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week? It's a National Health Observance Week with the goal of increasing awareness among teens about substance use abuse, to counteract the myths about drugs and alcohol that they learn from the internet, social media, TV, movies, music, or from friends. In 2020, National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week was held on Monday, March 30th through Sunday, April 5th. However, due to the pandemic, the COVID-19 outbreak, this year, a lot of the plans that we had ready to roll out, just like the conference that we were supposed to present at for AWI, everything got halted, but that did not take away our ability to engage and participate virtually via all of our social media platforms. The difference, I think, between National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week and Light and Unite Red is that we cast a wider prevention net by also targeting parents, college-age youth or young adults, and teachers to help us in our mission to increase awareness. The reason why we do this ultimately is to address the problem in 2019, there were 407 people in Milwaukee County who died from a drug-related overdose. That was a new record set for us last year. And the youngest victim was 15 months old. The oldest was 88 years old. That told us that, you know, we need to continue to do programs like this to help increase awareness and make people just know that treatment options are available if they need. Treatment and recovery options are available as well through our system if they are needed. What I'm sharing with you on the screen now are some of the messages that come out of the National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week campaign. There is actually a website where you can visit, just filled with toolkits and a variety of ideas that you can pull from to start to develop some awareness raising activities in your area. What I like most about these here is they're very positive. They put that spin on it that where it just really reflects that most of the students who are doing the right thing. You know, 72% of college students don't binge drink, but of course, you know, when we live in Wisconsin, that's, I don't know if that's the first thing that you think of, but I went to Marquette. I lived downtown, of course, in that urban area, and that's all I heard. So for me, I assumed everybody was doing it except me, but that's in fact not the case at all. You know, sometimes we always think the doom and gloom, but sometimes when you're doing messaging campaigns like such, always try to find a way to put the positive spin on it. And I think National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week does a great job with delivering these facts here. So what is Light Unite Red? It is the campaign spearheaded by BHD in conjunction with National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week. We share facts about drugs and alcohol, debunk what people learn from the internet, social media, TV and movies and friends. And we encourage the community to engage in prevention, treatment, and support recovery services. Last year, well, actually this year, Light Unite Red was made possible with more than 25 health departments, nonprofits, community organizations, and schools across Milwaukee and surrounding areas. Now, just like all of the other prevention work that we do, we are very specific about how we deliver interventions. So most of the interventions that we deploy during Light Unite Red Week focus on the universal population, and sometimes there are some groups that actually do selective activities during Light Unite Red Week. Here is a brochure that we created, which I will be happy to share with Phil so that he can share with all of you, or you can always go to our lightandunitered.org website to get this information and download it there as well. Actually, when I'm done speaking, I'll put that link in the chat for you so that it's available for you. But this is basically a risks and protective factors brochure that we share with parents to help them just get ideas of how to begin that conversation about substance use prevention. And then here you can see, you know, some of the risk factors and protective factors. I'm not going to read this entire pamphlet to you today, but it's very important for parents to just begin to see and understand the things that they can control and influence, and begin to just really surround and wrap all of that positive support around their children so that they don't engage in substance use. So just like many of us who are involved with doing coalition work, I think that's what AWY is all about. We bring all of the different sectors to the table. It is a wonderful, awesome feeling when people show up for the meetings. And I know that that print is tiny. It's not meant for you to read all of it. Of course, this list will it'll be available for you later, but it just lists out all of the wonderful health departments and a variety of community-based organizations who come to the table. We used to have our meetings pretty much once a month on Fridays for the 6 months leading up to Light and Unite Red. It takes that much planning. to really, really put forward a great product. So what are some of the ways that we encourage people to light and unite red? We encourage businesses to display red by lighting up red. I actually provide them with light bulbs, posters. We do some promotional giveaways with t-shirts and whatever little trinket it is that we surveyed the youth to find out what they wanted. We disperse a lot of those materials into the community to help us raise awareness. And there that website is, again, lightunitered.org. There you can visit to get our toolkit and also access the National Drug and Alcohol Facts Quiz, which is updated annually. We do have a Light and Unite Red Facebook page, Instagram page, Twitter page, and we do a lot of drug and alcohol fact sharing and other fun posts too that that the youth and young college age adults might find some value in. And then ultimately, we like all of the participants to sign a pledge to be drug and alcohol free. And again, that information can be found in our toolkit, which is on lightandunitered.org. Basically, you have all of this plethora of information already packaged and ready for you to just tweak it and make it your own to host in your own communities. Again, 2020 was supposed to be like the epic year. This would have been my 4th year during the campaign. Light and Unite Red has been around for 6 years. Some of you may know Annie Short, the executive director for AWY. This was like her baby. So I was very happy to take this adoptive Light Unite Red child and raise her up and just make it the big, awesome program that it is today. But y'all, this year we had the Milwaukee Bucks ready to light up the Deer District. Northwest Mutual was going to do the Light and Unite Red logo in their big, pretty glass building downtown. For the very first time, the Marcus Center of Performing Arts was going to light up red. The good thing is they all still agreed to do this when we plan to revisit it. And we do plan to kind of go off key this year, and maybe in September around Recovery Month, we're thinking about asking the buildings to help us raise awareness for Light Unite Red, since we really didn't get to highlight it as we normally would during National Drug and Alcohol Facts Week. So again, that print is a little bit bigger. You can see who some of those partners are. This picture that I put here just reminded me that one of the most awesome highlights and memories that I have of doing Light and Unite Red was a resource fair that we put on at Southridge Mall here in Milwaukee, and it was absolutely amazing. As we get to the end of the presentation, you will see some of those awesome activities that we did there. For the sake of time, I'm going to speed up, but we just put together a calendar every year to show what's going on in the community. There was a Light and Unite Red Haiku Challenge, which allowed, in 2018, which allowed the students to express themselves creatively in 3 short lines. And the prevention messages that they delivered were absolutely phenomenal. Here's a copy of the pledge picture, if you will, that most of the students do post on their Instagram pages. And like I mentioned earlier, we surveyed them to find out what it is that they might be interested in to actually wear the Light and Unite swag. We put that logo and website and the call to action on that swag, and we give it back to them. And again, it just helps to drive up the number of people coming to the website to get the information. Here's a picture at the top of the WTMJ phone bank, which is a significant component to Light and Unite Red. It helps us to be able to connect families with treatment and recovery services for those who might be in need. In the last 4 years, I've been doing the phone bank. We've helped over 962 callers gain access to to treatment and recovery services. As I mentioned before, we were at Southridge Mall. You see those beautiful faces down there. and we did a flash mob. We had an artist, this young lady here at the bottom. You can't see the picture really good, but she drew like a hand reaching up from a mound of pills, because that's how she wanted to let us know that it's really a problem in her high school. So she came out and displayed her art. We had a young lady, Olivia Banache, who actually was doing some tobacco prevention work and was able to come out and speak very articulately about that. We had students come out, express themselves with drum and dance. And you can see down here at the bottom, I engaged the students in a flash mob for Light Unite Red. So it was an ultimate sight that all of these kids burst out with their prevention messages. So it's not just about the fun activities, it's about the message behind why we're here. So one of the very last things that we did was a drug and facts quiz, but it's 11:15, and for the sake of time today, I don't want to go too far. I'm not going to play that video right now, but when you have an opportunity, please come back. I believe they do store these webinars so that you can come back and click that link, or again, I can post it for you to watch later, but you will see some students actually doing a video that we did of the drug facts quiz, and it is very, very cool. You don't want to miss that one. So again, thank you for your time, and I'll accept questions at the end of the presentation after everyone has already presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Next up is going to be Madeline Kornbeck. Madeline, if you want to share the screen.
All right, I will get sharing. Okay. Here we go. All right. So hello everybody. My name is Madeline Kornbeck, and I'll be talking about a campaign that we developed through our community coalition called Rise Above the Stigma of Addiction. And my presentation will kind of center around how the development of that campaign came to be and what we've been able to do with it in the 2 years we've been working on it. So our coalition, Community Alliance, Hales Corners, and Greendale Communities, is a substance misuse prevention coalition that serves the communities of Hales Corners and Greendale. And we formed the coalition in late 2017, and we started working on the Rise Above Stigma of Addiction campaign in, I would say, around April or May of 2018. So how we kind of came around to the idea of working on stigma reduction as a coalition, and I'll have to say that we do have a lot of organizational members on our coalition, but the meat and bones of our coalition are community members. So very much at the community level is where a lot of our work comes from. So it was prioritized by coalition members when we did our initial strategic planning process and kind of started talking about how we wanted to address substance misuse in our area. And as we kind of ticked off things on our list and kind of came to stigma reduction, I asked, who was interested in working on it. And we had 2 members step forward. One, Chris, who's a Hales Corners resident. She's a nurse in recovery, and she actually authored a book called An Unlikely Addict. So if anybody's interested in learning more about her story, it's quite incredible. She does have a book published on it. And Mary, a Greendale resident who unfortunately lost her son to an overdose a few years ago, her adult son. And so these 2 women kind of came forward, and we sat down and we're like, okay, well, what do we want to do about stigma in the community? Like, what is this going to look like? And we kind of came around to this idea of creating a campaign. And I have to say that the end product, I'm so amazed by, because their personal experiences they were willing to share and kind of pour themselves into the campaign development process is what has really made our messaging and our goals and objectives so relatable and authentic, because of their willingness to be part of that process and share their experiences in that way. It was really incredible to work with both of them. So we started developing our campaign, and I've never worked on a campaign before, or at least developing one. I do participate with Nzinga on Late Night Red, but I've certainly never been in the driver's seat. And so we kind of got to a point where we're like, all right, what are we doing? For anybody who's interested in working on stigma reduction, this toolkit that I have up here from the Addiction Technology Transfer Center Network is absolutely amazing. I encourage you guys to take a look at it. It really lays out everything in a step-by-step process, and has even worksheets and stuff like that in the back of the toolkit guide to assist you in kind of developing your messaging and your initial steps in creating a campaign. So definitely look that up. It's a great resource. And so we figured out our messaging and our objectives and the goals we kind of came up with. And my little screen, it's covering my PowerPoint for me a little bit, so I just have to scooch stuff around. Sorry about that. The goals we came up with were, 1, to inspire hope and healing by increasing our community's understanding of addiction. So we wanted to educate people about addiction via the chronic disease model of addiction, because although a lot of us in the prevention world, that's kind of old news, it's certainly not for the general public. And we knew that, you know, to kind of get at reducing stigma, it has, you know, a lot of education has to come with that. So we certainly wanted to have that as part of our component. And we also wanted to reduce the stigma that discourages people from seeking help. So stigma is kind of one of this like silent barrier for a lot of people in, you know, in their journey of actually getting to the point where they're like, okay, I'm ready to get help. I'm ready to make that step. I'm ready to reach out. And that, you know, stigma comes out of nowhere, either internally or maybe once they share with loved ones or a friend that they have a problem in their journey of reaching out, they encounter stigma. And so we just thought that it was so important that, you know, at this, you know, when a person's at that point where they're ready to reach out for help, for them to experience stigma and for that to be a barrier is really disheartening. So we really wanted that to be a part of our campaign. And then we also wanted to encourage honest dialogues about substance abuse disorders by giving the community words to start the conversation. And that kind of circled back to our initial conversations about addressing stigma, because it originally was going to be just kind of more of a campaign around language and not being stigmatizing through our words. But, you know, Community Alliance kind of started with a community conversation, so it kind of comes back full circle in terms of encouraging, first of all, just talking about substance abuse disorders in a non-stigmatizing way, and helping the community and, you know, engage in those conversations by helping them, you know, have the words and tools to start the conversation themselves. So these are the 3 messages that we came up with for our campaign. The first one in orange is the one that we've been focusing on since we've launched. And I'll get to why we decided to just stick with one message to begin with in a minute. So the message is, when I was struggling, what I really needed was blank. So this came around because we kind of came around in our discussions about how people want to help, but they don't know how to help in a way that's not enabling, or in a way that they don't, you know, because they don't know how to help, they don't want to do anything that would negatively impact a person or a family. So what we figured we could do was give them actual ideas from people who have experienced substance misuse. So we've had people fill in that sentence. And give the community tangible ideas of what people really needed, so that they don't have to feel like they have to keep an arm's distance away from somebody or a family who's struggling with addiction. You know, they can take, you know, these ideas from, take these ideas and do something with them. Our second and third message is that addiction is a chronic brain disease. Again, educating around the chronic disease model of addiction. And our third message is that you are more than your addiction, because we believe that, you know, people who are struggling with addiction or have a family member who's struggling with addiction, when that word kind of comes into play, it almost overshadows everything about that person's life, and they just become that thing. And we know that there's way more to a person than any one piece of their personality or their life. So that was another thing that we certainly wanted to highlight. And right now we are just focusing on the first message right now since we've launched. But we hope to, as we kind of grow, bring these other two messages more to the front and focus on those as well. So campaign branding. So we kind of hit a point where we had our goals, we had objectives, we had these messages laid out, we had research behind it to kind of back up our statements and things like that for when we're talking with people. But we didn't really know how to launch. We didn't really know how to market. And so it's kind of one of those serendipitous timings where a grant funding opportunity came through our health department at Greendale, and it literally had in one of its allowable activities develop an anti-stigma campaign. And it was one of those moments where you're working on something and you find grant funding that like perfectly aligns with it, and it almost never happens. So we certainly jumped on the opportunity to take that funding, and we were able to hire a marketing consultant who connected us with a graphic designer and copy editor to help us brand and build a website to house all of our information and kind of help give us a boost on our launch and kind of walk us through a couple of those initial launch activities and kind of how to figure all that out. So our campaign launch happened was it last summer? Oh my gosh, yes, I think it was. So at the top right of your screen, you'll see a trifold. We did pilot test our first message. So we had that in the spring. We had pilot testing, and we had a couple of those sentences filled in, and we had people kind of put sticky dots down on the messages that resonated with them the most. And then if you follow me clockwise, you'll see Chris in the corner with a board with different squares on it. And those are actual word bubbles. And we had written on there, when I was struggling, what I really needed was blank. And people were actually able to fill in the blank and share more about their experience with struggling with addiction. And then the other picture with my little puppy, Poppy, up there is another opportunity we took at Greendale's Farmers Market, actually, to have that posted. And that picture with Chris in the corner was from the Roaring for Recovery event at the zoo. And then we also took it to the Walk for Recovery last year, and we had our little word bubbles turned into stickers that people could write in their, finish the sentence and actually wear it while they were at the event, which we thought was pretty cool. And then we've also created our own PSA, and then we had a PSA created by that marketing team as well that we've had screen at our own community wellness event. And then we've also purchased screen time at the Marcus Bistroplex at Southridge to have our PSA screened as well. And recently, in the last couple weeks, we were supposed to present our campaign through Greendale Library's Lunch and Learn series, and of course COVID, so that didn't happen. But we were able to, Chris and I were able to voice record over our PowerPoint and make it available virtually. So that is available through Greendale Library's website, and so we are still able to get that out to the community. And what we really wanted to do with our campaign was not just have a website where people could go and read about stigma reduction and our messages and educate themselves about it. We didn't want it to just be a static thing. We wanted to be out in the community. And so these examples are just kind of some of the things we've come up with to make it an evolving and growing and energetic campaign that's not just a website. So that stigma reduction toolkit was a big resource for us. The other big resource we used, and if nobody's ever gone to the WISE website, they have an incredible amount of stigma related resources. Their mission revolves more around mental health stigma, but they have on their website like a whole library of research articles around stigma in general that I think really can be applied across different topics. So again, if you're working on stigma reduction, another great resource to look into. So really quickly, because I know I'm running up on time, just some lessons learned. The authentic and personal experience through the messaging development that we had with Chris and Mary and their personal experiences was so important and really grounded our campaign. And the other big lesson learned, and I don't think we realized this until we kind of had the campaign developed, was that stigma in the prevention world and around substance abuse and specifically is such an amazing topic that any person can have an effect in. So it's not like, I feel like when we get into substance abuse prevention, we kind of think of these big systemic issues around legislation and access to care and stuff like that, that when you're working with a community coalition, it's too big. It's too big to impart any real effect on as just a small community coalition. But stigma reduction and changing the ways in which we interact with our neighbors and our friends and our families is something that any one person can do and can really create a change at a personal level in the lives of those around them. And so that has just been so powerful and so encouraging to engage the rest of our coalition in this campaign and give them something that they can, you know, a tool and a way that they can impart change on a daily basis within our community has been so special to see. So some other lessons learned, you know, certainly we were limited by professional skills for marketing and communication, like I mentioned. Thankfully, we had that grant where we were able to hire some consultants to help us on that front. And then volunteer resources, because when you're a community coalition, you know, if you don't have the people to step up and do something, you know, you're not going to get that far. And that's where we've kind of struggled a little bit too, because it's kind of been a team of three, you know, engaging the rest of our coalition and getting involved. And then time commitment, and I'm sure Nzanga and Sarah can chime in on this too. You know, it's a lot of work to keep a campaign going, and so we are limited in our scope and how far we can broadcast our messages by by the constraints of time commitment and staffing events and things like that. All right, and that is all I have. That is my contact information if anybody has any questions. And you can you can visit our campaign webpage through our coalition website that's listed there on the slide as well. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, Madeline. Moving to our final speaker, Sarah Jesse. Sarah, are you ready?
I am. Let's see, do you all see my PowerPoint presentation here or something else?
Yes.
Okay, good. Let me find it myself then. Sorry, it's gonna take me 1 sec because I'm dealing with multiple screen issues. All right, let me just make sure this works. All right, well, thank you, everybody. I am so inspired by what I've heard so far. And unlike the other two presenters, we have not launched our Not in My House underage drinking campaign because of COVID-19. We were going to launch it in March, so I don't have any great data on the launch, but I can tell you all about the campaign. And we developed this campaign at the Partnership for Prevention in Sauk County right from the beginning as a campaign that other coalitions around the state could use. As the other speakers have said, a lot of work goes into these campaigns, a lot of marketing expertise, a lot of money, a lot of time, and we're hoping that other coalitions can use the materials we developed. So everything we developed has, you know, our logo on it, but you could put your own logo on it, and we're going to make all the materials available to coalitions and hope that you would like to use them and improve on them. And, you know, as many people as we get to do this campaign, it just rises a tide for everybody, doesn't it? Okay, so let me see if I can, oh, good, it works. So starting as we always do in prevention, we identified what problems we had in our Sauk County community. And like almost every county in Wisconsin, we found that our youth are using alcohol. Not a big surprise there. When we drill down into the root cause, we in our community have a problem mostly with social access to alcohol. How we know that is from our YRBS survey results of kids saying they are not really buying alcohol from retail establishments. They're getting it from family, friend sources, and parties. We also heard this from our school resource officers, others in the community, and community conversations we were having. And then drilling down to what local conditions we were going to focus on. Adults in our community are providing alcohol and or a place for underage drinking parties to happen. You know, we have the Dells in our community, so big place to have parties in hotel or motel rooms, also on maybe at a campground or on a lake, on a boat even. We heard from law enforcement that our parties are a lot smaller than they used to be. We're not seeing like big parties out in a field anymore with, you know, hundreds of kids, but they're small parties and it's harder for law enforcement then to detect them. What we were hearing from parents, they know what parents are hosting underage drinking parties quite often, you know, and those parents say, well, it's a lot better for us to host the party than to, you know, let our kids go out and drink. We take away their car keys. We make sure they don't drink and drive, you know. So we knew that a big part of our education campaign had to be around brain development, what happens besides drinking and driving accidents that put youth at harm. We just needed to shift this belief that it's okay for youth to drink. I know we've all been working on this for a long time. So I want to highlight before I get into the Not in My House campaign, some of the other of CADCA's 7 strategies for community change that our coalition is working on along with this campaign, because we know that it's never enough just to educate people. We have to be working on all these multiple levels to actually get true community change. So we are looking to enforce policy and change consequences regarding law enforcement enforcing our state law. 2017, we passed that social host law that makes it illegal for adults to provide a location for underage drinking to happen, even if they don't supply the drinks. And there's a forfeiture associated with that, $500 for a first offense and up to $10,000 if it's multiple offenses over a 6-month period. So went out to a chiefs meeting here in Sauk County. We have 7 law enforcement agencies and their chiefs get together pretty much every month. And so I went to them and I said, hey, are you enforcing our social host law? When I was new at the county in 2017, I asked them in early 2018 and they looked at me like, what? And I said, the law, you know, passed in 2017 and, you know, explained what it was. And one person knew what it was and everybody else just kind of looked at each other and said, you know, one person said, you know, we can't do those social host ordinances anymore, Sarah. And I said, oh, I know that's not legal anymore, not at the ordinance level. We have a state law now. So I could tell they didn't know that this was on the books. It was new to them. So then I worked with Julia Sherman, our Wisconsin alcohol policy guru, on, you know, messaging to law enforcement. So she shared with me a brief that she had written up for agencies, including law enforcement, about how to enforce it, what the law was. So passed that along to them. We also looked together at could all of our municipalities enforce this law and how would they do it? Would it be state law? Would it be a municipal ordinance? We talked to the judges and the clerk at our county to make sure that if our law enforcement did find someone for the social host law, that would be upheld in the court. They wouldn't just toss it out and say, oh, underage drinking is a rite of passage, right? We didn't want to do all this work and then have, you know, the ultimate result be non-enforcement. We would like this law to be enforced. Okay, what else are we doing? We are looking to enhance access and reduce barriers by providing beer fridges. These are like liquor cabinet locks or beer fridge locks, you know, for parents and others in the community who have a garage beer fridge. We know from our community that kids often will go around, especially younger teens, and just take a few beers from this garage, a few beers from that one. So we are encouraging people to monitor their alcohol supply and to lock that up. And then to enhance skills, we've hosted 2 years now in a row some panel speaker events. Those are called Let's Talk Drugs events. It's a panel of experts talking to parents about how they can keep youth alcohol-free, drug-free in general, how to talk to kids about alcohol and other drug use. And we also developed a pamphlet, tips for talking to youth about drugs that, time permitting, I'll show you at the end. So this is the meat of the presentation. Our Not in My House campaign is meant to provide information to adults in the community with a focus on parents, but not just parents, because we know it's not just parents who are hosting parties. It could be older siblings or older friends as well. So this campaign was adapted with permission from a successful North Dakota campaign. And if you all follow alcohol trends, you know, North Dakota and Wisconsin are always like neck and neck with like who has the absolute worst rates of excessive alcohol use. So we knew we were in good company here with this North Dakota campaign. It was Dorothy Cheney who worked with this coalition and in North Dakota and got us together, and they shared everything they had with us. So we took their logo and ran with that and used a lot of their materials as a basis for what we created. So what did we create? The list is here. We have a campaign fact sheet. We have a party tips brochure. We have a yard sign, a parent pledge sign, stickers for retailers, kind of like a sticker shock campaign, and a website. Sorry, I have this weird setup in my office where my laptop is actually hiding part of my screen. So forgive me for my weird maneuverings occasionally here. We also, throughout our campaign, wanted to try to implement the Frameworks Institute's analogy. So they use this metaphor. It's a proven metaphor to change people's minds about underage drinking. We know, working in this field, if you just ask a random community member, you know, what do you think about kids drinking alcohol? They might say, oh, it's a rite of passage, it's normal. But if you put it forward something like this, like, you know, there's a lot cooking in the adolescent brain, and harmful substances like alcohol can turn up the heat for kids. And we all have this responsibility to keep problems from boiling over by ensuring safe environments for kids. Like, then people, again, just on the street, Frameworks did all this research and tested these ideas, you know, then someone will say, oh yeah, it's like I said, we all have this responsibility to make sure kids don't drink. And they'll do like a complete 180 on the topic, and also think about their environment that they're creating for their family, for their household, for their community. So, you know, we really do want to focus on that environmental change and move away from any kind of shaming, you know, or focusing on individuals. So we've really tried to incorporate this boiling pot analogy. Totally open to feedback from folks. It was a little tough for our coalition to incorporate it in a way that made sense. We hope that we hit the sweet spot here, but again, we'd be open to hearing it if we didn't. But we did develop this logo and, you know, the keep problems from boiling over metaphor. So you'll see that a bit in our work. So this is the fact sheet. It's the first item that I'll present here to you all. It's on the side of your screen here. It's just a little bit about why prevent drinking among youth, where kids get their alcohol from social sources, and then our campaign goals. We want healthy communities, and we want to raise awareness of our social host law, what the campaign materials are, and how to contact us. Then our party tips brochure. It is a multi-page handout here. I'll do a little show and tell. Again, I can show or send this to you afterwards, but it looks like this, and it's two-sided. So the tips are for, you know, when your teen is hosting a party, when your teen is attending a party, when they come home, you know, how to kind of just check in with them, see how things are going. What happens if they come home drunk or high? When the parent is leaving town, what are some things you can do to prevent your location from being used by youth for drinking parties? Then we have a yard sign. It looks like this. It's actually in the shape of a house, which we like and think is quite sweet. And then we have a parent pledge card. The idea here, you know, is for parents to physically sign this card. And also to kind of incorporate this language, as I was saying, from the Frameworks Institute, to kind of put it in their own voice that they believe that there's a lot cooking in the adolescent brain and that we should keep substances out of those brains. We also have a sticker or window cling. It can come in both. The idea behind this is that it could be placed at retail establishments on the cooler doors or stickers on the cases of alcohol. And then we have a website, and as you can see, because we were hoping that other coalitions might want to use this campaign, we made it generic. It's notInMyHouseWisconsin.org. This is what it looks like on the front, and this is what's covered in the website. You know, why prevent youth alcohol use, about the social host law. It has the party tips the same as on the brochure. And then it has a page that says contact us. And currently the website is live and it just has our coalition's logo. And if you click on it, you're connected to our coalition website. Excuse me, I have an allergic cough. So you can add your own website there by reaching out to us. Oh, geez. Forgive me. Hold on a second. My allergies are getting the best of me. Okay, so we'd love for you to join us. You can let us know. We'll put your coalition logo and link on our website. Oh, excuse me. And that's it. Thankfully, gosh, saved by the end slide there. I can recover my cough.
Thank you very much, Sarah. I hope you get something else to drink so that the cough will go away. We have some time for questions now. If you go to the chat box, you will see the link for folks to get the credit for today's session, if you want to take a look at that. Raina, thank you. Great products with catchy colors and messaging. Sarah's contact information. We certainly can. Sarah, do you want to pop that up for us? Great, thank you for putting that in the group chat. Do we have any other questions for any of our presenters? Not seeing the survey link. Well, let me copy and paste it again. There's the survey link.
Thanks, everybody. And if I could say, sorry, I was overcome by coughing there. So the way that we're going to make the materials available to other coalitions is through Dropbox. They are in InDesign, so you would need some design experience, or you would need to contract with someone who can help you with those materials. We used a small design agency in Reedsburg for this campaign, and we found their rates were quite good. So if you wanted to just order campaign materials through them, that would be fine, but you don't have to. You can, like, they could change and put in your logo, etc. But if you wanted to do it on your own, that's also fine.
Thank you. And Madeline shared the WISE resource again for folks that you can have that. Thank you, Nzinga, for sharing the link and the website. Any questions anybody has? I'm not hearing any questions or seeing anything coming up. Again, if folks have a question that comes up or something, you certainly can email me and I can get the question out to one of our presenters, or if you got you have their contact information, please reach out. I think these are some terrific opportunities that we have, and it's great that we also have people who could offer you some support and some help along the way if you're reaching out. And I mean, I think all three of them, all three campaigns, certainly have a lot to offer, within our respective communities. So, and let's face it, we need to continue to educate, provide information to our coalitions, but also our entire communities. So, and if I do just have a quick kudos, Sarah, I really appreciate using the frameworks information. Again, so often I kind of see people using things that they think might work, but you took something that had been tested thoroughly, and it was a great training that the state helped provide for us too. But I do think that there are, opportunities like that, more of us could, possibly emulate and, move forward with that sort of approach. So.
Thank you,
Okay.
Phil. I found that so fascinating, the frameworks, whole discussion and training, and it's so rare that we do get like a message studied that we can use. So we really wanted to use it, but it really seems like it lends itself better to speaking this kind of message rather than in writing. So again, we're really open to people's feedback, especially if you didn't attend that frameworks training and you're like, what the heck are you talking about? And then you look at the brochure, we were just trying. You should have seen how many different revisions we did of these materials. We've literally been working on them, I think, for a solid year. So thank you.
Well, and it's finding a good visual as well. And I mean, I think that is part of it. I think you're right. I mean, it's a terrific talking framework, but that whole visual thing too, we know how important that is. And again, I think the more that we're able to do that. Hello, Chris Wardlow.
Hi. I never miss an opportunity to learn from Sarah Jesse and Madeline. And
Zinga.
thank you.
You
Great
bet.
Stuff. It was really good. Great stuff.
Great stuff. Anything else anyone has? Well, we certainly appreciate everyone taking their time. We appreciate our three presenters working with us and being very diligent about their use of time as well. And look forward to, hearing how these community campaigns continue to work in Wisconsin. And please don't be surprised if you get people contacting you for some help to kind of emulate what you were doing and see what we can do. So thanks everyone. And again, please fill out that link if you need to in terms of getting the hour for this. I just put it back up again for some folks to be able to take a look at and click to get their hour in. And thanks everyone, appreciate it. Sarah, Madeline, and Zinga, thank you again.
Thank you very much.
And we will be in touch with the rest of you folks. Join us again next Thursday. We have a presentation on fundraising for coalitions, which is always interesting as we look at some of our sustainability plans and opportunities to maybe invest in some of these sort of prevention campaigns. So it always kind of helps. We don't always have the serendipity that Madeline had, but you know, please join us next Thursday for this. So thanks everyone. And this is being recorded. So if you have questions or you want to rehear something that took place, we'll have it for you on our AWI MemberClick site. So thanks everybody.
Thank
Have a
you.
great day. Bye.
Bye now.
Hey, there's Raina.
There's Raina. I saw Raina.
See you, Phil.
See ya.